Well, guys, in this video, I'm going to be updating everyone on the two major wars and conflicts happening in the Middle East and in Eastern Europe. There's some big updates with reports of maybe longer range ballistic strikes between the Germans now and the Russians, possibly. I don't want to get ahead of myself because there's a lot of this reporting and fear mongering about World War III. And we know we want to step back and say, well, nothing ever happens. Well, nothing ever happens until it does. There's a great all-time quote for you. But no, I really hope nothing happens. And we've gotten a lot of reports. I mean, remember, they were escalating originally right after Trump won. They used the longer range ballistic missiles. Nothing really came of it. But now there is some serious escalation with Putin and Trump having a falling out. We'll see what happens there. But you've got Trump coming out saying that he warned Israel against striking Iran. Earlier this morning, I saw this new article from the New York Times. As Trump seeks Iran deal, Israel again raises possible strikes on nuclear sites. So it's just more of the same. There's really nothing in this article that we didn't already know. It does look like Israel, because of how weak, the weakened state of Hezbollah and Hamas, they are trying to use it as a window to strike Iran, and they are hoping beyond hope that the potential peace, well, I guess you could say nuclear deal, falls apart between the United States and Iran. There's been some talk, and I'm sure this is what Israel is fearful of, just the way Trump is, that Trump could swing this as a better nuclear deal than the one Obama got in 2015, because the one Obama got expired, I believe, after 2030. It was either after 10 years or 2030, and it didn't involve oversight from many countries. This newer one, they're talking about enriching uranium no more than around 3.3%. Right now, they're at around 60% enrichment, so they'd have to bring it back down. But there are U.S. officials that say, we want zero enrichment, and they want around 3% enrichment with oversight from many different countries. And Trump might be able to swing this and you have to take this. I mean, we just can't do this with another Middle Eastern conflict. We know. And so if you're Trump, we'll see. Is it ideal that they have the 3% enrichment? If you can swing this as a win, as a better deal than the one Obama got, because this one would be indefinite and this one would have oversight from many countries in terms of watching the enrichment and monitoring it. But it's interesting because Netanyahu's extremely aggressive, and they're talking about to where they're like, we could strike Iran within 7 hours at any point. And they're saying, well, we might need to do a smaller strike without the U.S., and then when Iran responds, we'll drag the U.S. in, and they'll be forced to come to our aid. Which Trump needs to say, we're not interested. If you strike them, you're by yourselves. You're on an island. We're not helping you. Especially if you strike them while we're that's why they're waiting, because they know they need U.S. support. You know, if they strike them right now, it would be seen as a horrible betrayal to Trump, and it would make Trump look very weak. And Trump wouldn't like that in terms of a public. I mean, look at what Trump is talking about with Putin. There's this talk of they tried to assassinate Putin when he visited the Kursk region this past weekend via drone. They tried to use drones, and Trump is like, well, listen, Putin's making me look bad. He's making me look weak. I don't like this. There's something happened to Putin, and he got very angry. So Trump really cares about portraying a very strong public image. I think if Netanyahu did something while Trump's still trying to negotiate, I mean, they're at the fifth stage, the fifth meeting of these talks, these nuclear talks. And from what I can gather, they're arguing between 3% enrichment and no enrichment at all. And so that's basically where it is. That's what this article talks about. It's just more of the same. Israel is extremely trigger happy. They want to attack Iran. They want U.S. support. Trump originally said no. Remember, the New York Times reported that 2 months ago or a month ago. And that was when Waltz got reassigned, because it came out that Waltz was communicating with Netanyahu and trying to get Trump to act aggressively in conjoinment with Israel against the Iranian nuclear facilities, which are all located in caves and deserts. And so that's really where that situation is. So listen, Trump said a few days ago they're close, but it's the same thing over and over again with Trump, to where the rhetoric is very, he wants to portray a or else type motto, to where it's like, yeah, we're close, but if something doesn't happen here, And Trump's whole thing is with Iran and how weak they are right now because of their proxies, Hezbollah and Hamas being weaker, we could get a much better deal because we have better negotiating leverage. And Israel's like, no, let's strike them while they're down. So we'll see what happens in terms of that. But the hope is that we come to some type of agreement, obviously. That's what we want. And so you've also got this. Russia is considering hitting targets in Berlin. Well, that's not good. Russia is considering hitting targets in Berlin after Merz, that's Friedrich Merz, the Chancellor of Germany, authorized Ukraine to strike Moscow. Authorized Ukraine. Oh, I thought it was German missiles. He authorized Ukraine to strike Moscow with German missiles, but it's not Germany doing the striking, it's Ukraine. So, yeah, this is just another escalation, and NATO will request Germany to supply 7 additional brigades, approximately 40,000 troops. Yeah, we'll see what happens. This is one of those things to where it's nothing ever happens. I mean, I know people are worried about it. You know, we've heard this stuff, you know, every few months it kicks up. I think they're getting closer to a peace deal, and that's why a lot of this is happening. And people could say, well, you're naive and you're gullible, but it's like Russia wants to be positioned in an extremely favorable spot for this peace deal. But if something does happen to where it goes awry and some of these European NATO countries get involved, the U.S. has to dip out of this. This is the problem. We're tethered to NATO, so it's like, what do we do? And I know there's also reports to where now Trump's going to rearm Ukraine and do all... I mean, technically, we do have a minerals deal with them, so they are getting certain things from us in terms of intelligence. And I don't know if they're getting any weapons from us right now, but if they got weapons, we would be repaid through minerals. I'm not saying that's what should happen, but at the end of the day, the situation is Russia clearly has the momentum. They don't want a ceasefire. Trump wants a ceasefire. Ukraine, to a degree, wants a ceasefire. But the problem is Ukraine, right now, it doesn't seem like they want to play ball in terms of giving up things during negotiations either, and they're emboldened by the Western European powers. So what are we really talking about here? There's going to have to be concessions on both sides. But the problem is Russia won't even agree to a ceasefire because they're saying, why would we agree to a 30-day ceasefire when we have the upper hand? We're not going to let you rearm and resupply and take 30 days when there's no way we're going to work anything out if Zelensky is demanding back Crimea. It's just not, there's no way. If that's the negotiations, there's going to be no agreement. There'll be no agreement. If their hard line is we want all our territory back, it's not going to happen unless there's escalation. But this is not even, I mean, this is escalation by proxy, which is what NATO has done in the past. Now, you're talking about 40,000 troops, but like, where are these troops going? They're not going to fight. Are they? Like, I mean, you could say, well, it's getting closer. It's escalating to that point. But we've seen things like this in the past. Remember, right after the election, after Trump won, Biden and their administration deemed that Trump was going to be supposedly a lot nicer to Russia. So he said, let's escalate. And this is what I think, to put Ukraine in a better position for a peace deal when Trump got in. So they allowed them to use the longer range ballistic missiles. Russia threw a fit about it, but it didn't really escalate much. But like, you're seeing all this escalation now. This is actually signs of a peace deal, I think, because, you know, both of these sides, they want to be positioned best when you're talking about a peace deal. But now you have people basically saying, oh, it's never going to happen. It's going to be World War III for sure. Trump should just get the U.S. out of it. Which, I mean, I don't think NATO's committing to World War III right now, unless there'd be significant escalation from Russia. I mean, is Russia really mounting huge offenses? It doesn't feel like that based off of the territory. I mean, recently, there's been more movement by Russian troops. But again, I think a lot of that is more jousting for a negotiation position. I mean, they did agree to a temporary infrastructure ceasefire as well. Russia did. But it's like there has to be an agreement. These Western European countries can't come together and say, all right, and maybe they can. Maybe it's just all, they want to keep leverage, but they don't want the 4 oblasts going to Russia. They don't want Crimea going to Russia. They say, well, they're going to take... The idea, and this is still going around from liberals, that, well, they're going to invade all these European countries. It's not possible. They can't do it. And that's not even how it would happen in the 21st century. They're going to do a land invasion into all of Europe, into all the NATO countries. You think they would seriously do that? The Baltics, I could understand there being something there, but it's not going to... There's going to... And by the way, we're talking about this. It's 1/5 of Ukraine. For 3 years, 1/5 of Ukraine. That's what they're getting. 1/5 of Ukraine. It's taken them 3.5 years. So, and you know what it is. They just want proxy control over Ukraine. They want Ukraine to be part of the East. And so that's really what it comes down to. But when you talk about it escalating, I mean, yeah, it's to me it's getting closer to the peace. That's why all this is happening. It's all kicking up now. But people immediately fearmonger, oh, it's World War III for sure. That's all it is now on social media. So there's some movements. You've got Germany authorizing the use of missiles, moving some troops around. Remember, the United States moved troops around in the Middle East. Everyone's like, war with Iran. Well, no, that's just something you do in case, and you use it as leverage. And so this is another thing to where you can swing this and say, well, NATO just wants to position Ukraine in the best spot possible for negotiations. But how, really, I don't see how, unless there's something catastrophic that we don't know about the Russian army, which I was told the Russian army is somehow even stronger than they were in 2022, by the way, which you would think they would take more land if that was really the case. But there's going to be some type of peace deal. I mean, there has to be. And if there's not, I don't know. Apparently, according to NATO, we're obligated. But we're not doing this thing to where it's a wide-scale war over Ukraine. It just can't happen. It really can't. But the problem is, there's no compromise right now from Putin. So you hit him with more sanctions. Trump's now hitting him with more sanctions, and the immediate response is, oh, it's not going to do anything. The sanctions didn't do anything in 2022, and they were likely a lot harder than the sanctions Trump is going to hit Putin with now in 2025, although there are some other avenues Trump can utilize in terms of Russian energy and cutting them off a little bit, cutting their exports off. But you are talking about, in a way, escalation. Because remember, they said, well, we'll wait them out with sanctions. It didn't work. If anything, Russia waited the West out. And they still have the territory through the sanctions, through the hardened sanctions, when the West was unified with a liberal U.S. executive branch and all the liberal governments within the EU and the UK. But it didn't seem to matter. I mean, look, I think Russia, to a degree, is disappointed right now in the situation, but it can easily be swung as a win for them. I saw some things that they wanted. They want assurances on other countries outside of Ukraine not joining NATO. They were very pissed off when, obviously, Finland joined NATO in 2023. But they want other countries within that area to pledge and say, we will not join NATO, which I think is completely fair with how far NATO expanded. But if you say that, liberals say, oh, that's Russian propaganda. You can't say that. Okay, well, how did we get here? We got here because of the West meddling into Ukraine, which was originally under the control of the Russian Empire and the Soviet Union, and even after the Soviet Union fell, it was still under their influence. And then the 2014 meddling happens, and the pro-Russian government gets overthrown. So listen, we'll see what happens. I don't know, if honestly, who knows if there's, I just don't know what Russia really wants. Ukraine is kind of just, they don't really have much of a say. Ukraine doesn't. They're just empowered by Western European countries, and it just depends how scared is Europe about this. The problem is, obviously, the United States is in a different position to where we're not too concerned about Russia. A lot of these European countries are, so they want us to be as concerned as they are about Russia. How can we be as concerned as you when we're not located in the same part of the world as you? And then they say we're these terrible people for, like oh, we're obsessed with Putin and we love him. No, we're just not in the same. We can't justify escalation within this war for the United States. There's no justification. I mean, we didn't join World War II until Pearl Harbor, although we were sinking German U-boats in the Atlantic. But wasn't an actual full scale. It's not like we joined. But either way, guys, this is a big thing, and we'll see what happens. I mean, listen, there's going to have to be something that gets worked out here with these situations. I think with the Israel-Palestine situation, there's talk about a huge G7 summit in Alberta. There's going to be people saying they need to recognize Palestine. I don't know what Trump will say. But when it comes to the Iran stuff, I think it's very clear. There's going to have to be some type of deal. We can't do this with Israel again. Trump and the administration have to know this. And if Israel wants to go at it alone, they're going to go at it alone. There can't be U.S. support. You want to strike their nuclear facilities, something happens to you, you can't come crying to the United States asking for our support. The issue is technically they already have it because they already get military funding from us. So by proxy, we're already enabling them. So, I mean, with them, it's like, let's just not do this. Let's agree to something. We'll agree to the 3% enrichment with an oversight committee. We're not going to do this, okay? Oh, they can't have any well, what about Pakistan having nuclear? How about all these other countries? You can't police the world thousands of miles away on whether or not they have 3 or 5 or 10% uranium enrichment. I mean, it's like, no, they can't have 3% enrichment. They must have 0 enrichment. All right, we're talking about a country that's 9,000 miles away. What do you want us to do? But I don't know. We'll have to see what ends up happening. Either way, guys, make sure you like the video down below. Also, follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.